This morning I thought I was going to be clever, but I'm never as clever as I think I am. Today I want to talk about international travel, and so I thought, well, it would be a good idea to film the monologue at the train station here in the city where I live. So I went to the main train station, and boy, was it busy. Boy, was it busy for a Sunday morning. I thought it was going to be like really slow, not so many commuters. Okay, so I have now moved locations to somewhere else in the city, and we're going to try this again, hopefully with fewer interruptions from trains. Well, I like my chances of no interruptions from trains, but I'm still going to have interruptions, I'm sure. All right, welcome back to our series on human rights, specifically as those human rights apply to convicted sex offenders. When I began this series, I had intended to go in order: Article 1, Article 2, Article 3, Article 4, and so on. However, some things have happened in the past week that kind of require me to jump ahead to Article 12. So Article 12 is the one I'd like to talk about for a moment, because not only does it tell us a good human right, meaning all human rights are meaningful, a pertinent human right to convicted sex offenders, but it also has a counterbalance attached to it, and it's that counterbalance I really want to talk about. Now, Article 12 of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, the ICCPR, is broken down into the three sections. The first section talks about how a person, a human being, can move within the borders of their own country freely and has the right to choose their residence, to choose where they live. Now, clearly that conflicts with several of the sex offender registry laws, but that's not really the topic of today's video. Today's video, I want to look at sections 2 and 3. Section 2 says that you have the right to leave your country and return to your country freely. Now, because most of my audience is Americans, I'm going to say, you have the right to leave the United States and return to the United States freely. Now, folks have latched onto that and said, well, wait a minute, I have a right to international travel. Yes and no. The right only states that you have the right to leave the United States. It does not say that you have the right to enter another country. And that's how the United States is getting around the international law with their International Megan's Law, where they're stamping sex offender label inside of passports. The United States is telling sex offenders, yes, you can leave freely. We don't guarantee that another country is going to allow you in. And we all know, as fact, that there are certain countries that see that printed on the inside of the passport and they will turn you around and send you right back. They're not going to let you in. There are other countries, mostly in the Schengen area, mostly in the Schengen area, but all of the Schengen countries will allow convicted sex offenders in. So it really is a matter of where you're trying to get into. We need to keep in mind that not all rights are absolute. There is not a single right that is absolute for you. When we talk about the right to life, well, yeah, there are circumstances when the government can take your life from you. You have the right to freedom. Well, there are circumstances where the government can take your freedom from you. When you say you have the right to travel, there are restrictions that the government can place on you without violating international human rights. And that's why we're going to look now to paragraph 3. Now, I'm going to put it up on the screen for a moment, let you read it for yourself and let you see exactly what it says. Then I'll come back and talk about it. Now that you've had a chance to look at it, you understand there are some very reasonable restrictions that can be placed on your right to travel. For instance, if a person is serving a conviction, a prison sentence inside of a maximum security prison, clearly they don't have the right to international travel. Their right has been restricted. Similarly, but not exactly, if someone is on probation or parole, you have the privilege of travel. You may ask the court for permission to travel outside the country, but the court doesn't have to grant it. They can deny you the right to travel while you're on probation or parole. Now, those are two very common restrictions on that freedom. For those of us who are not serving a prison sentence, who are not on probation or parole, there can still be restrictions. For instance, if the United States is at war, they have every right to seal off their borders and prevent travel in and out. They have every right under this law. The same is true, as you just read, for public health crisis. When there is a public health interest, the government can restrict your right to travel. So in a time of a global pandemic, for instance, the government has every right to restrict travel outside the country and inside. For instance, right now, Europe has said we will not accept Americans coming from the United States because the United States does not have its crisis under control. Understandable. So folks have been emailing me saying, well, they're stopping me from traveling internationally because I'm a convicted sex offender and that's a violation of my right to travel. Well, if the only reason they were using is you're a convicted sex offender, then yeah, you probably would have a good claim. But right now, there is a global pandemic. So, of course, they can restrict your travel. And that's why you're not being allowed. Now, I've talked to a few people by telephone, and I've explained to them that as soon as the pandemic is finished, once it's under control and the travel restrictions are lifted, you are free to come to Europe. There's going to be nothing stopping you. This is merely a temporary restriction. It's not permanent. And we had that in Germany for a while. Germany was sealed off, I think, for about 3 months. We were not even allowed to travel to Austria or Switzerland or the Netherlands. We weren't allowed to go any other country. We had to stay in our lane, so to speak. So I need you to understand, yes, you have the right to travel, but it has restrictions placed on it, and we all need to be mindful of that. So hopefully you found this informative, and hopefully it gave you some food for thought, and hopefully it gave you encouragement, because maybe you're planning on traveling somewhere, maybe not just Europe, but anywhere. And at the moment, you can't do it. It's temporary. It's temporary. Europe has already lifted its restrictions. Now it's kind of time for the U.S. to get its house in order. And then y'all can travel. So until next time, keep that in mind. And although at the very moment you cannot do anything to change your situations, you can be planning to change your situation. You can be preparing for that day when it comes. If you can't travel right now, maybe now's a good time to save money for your travel. Maybe now's a good time to enroll in a language course, whether it be online or maybe in a small private class. It can be done. So until next time, keep each other safe, keep yourselves safe, and keep your eyes looking forward. There is a better way. There is life after the registry. Until next time, tschüss. Okay. While avoiding violating international law. But I had some folks, and here comes another train. I'm really starting to rethink this location. All right, let's take a break. Okay. And now we have an announcement over my head. The reason I chose to film, oh, there they go. Oh my God. So what that section says clearly is that there are circumstances in which So what that section says is that there are circumstances or instances when the government can restrict your ability. All right, let's make it. Stop! This lady hasn't shut up in 5 minutes. Okay, so when studying, that's going to make sense. There are circumstances which allow for the limitation of your rights. As I just mentioned, the global pandemic is one of them. So okay, this dude behind me is annoying the hell out of me.